Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and what little changes with your money can you make that will yield big, lasting results? We've got them, and our contributors are sharing their best ideas today. But that's not all. Now that we have all of our frequent contributors together again, can someone please stop OG during my trivia segment? That guy's on a tear. And now, a guy who's on a tear every time he hears that it's Fajita Friday at the Sizzler, it's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Not kidding. I had fajita lettuce wraps today for lunch. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What's Joe Eatin' podcast. It's Friday, and that means it is party time here in Mom's Basement, our chattiest show of the week, where we get some of our good friends together to talk about your money. And man, do we got a good show today. Somehow I clicked the button that made myself go off the air. Wow.
We got a great show today because we're out. It's going to be the best show ever. Just an hour of silence.
We got a great show, Doug, because it's going to be quick, because it's going to be done. And who cares? How are you, man?
Better to be lucky than quick. I'm good. I'm really good. I'm enjoying my time here, Joe.
Well, the guy who'll make sure that you don't enjoy your time here across the card table from me, Mr. OG, is here to ruin Doug's day, right? Isn't that why you show up?
I mean, I mostly try to ruin your day. It's an ancillary benefit to ruin Doug's. And if I don't, I'll just call him afterward and be like, hey, let me tell you about all this stuff that you did that was wrong today. And then that usually puts him in a good mood for the rest of the week.
Oh, that's
put it in my file.
Super. And the guy who never does anything wrong besides living in the Arctic North, Mr. Jesse Cramer's here. How are you, man?
The snowbanks are almost gone.
And it's only March.
I need you to advocate for me a little bit, Joe, maybe around some family, friends, spouses, something like that. The man who never does anything wrong. You'd be a very special advocate in my life.
At any time, just put me on the phone. Here, this is Joe. They're like, who the hell's Joe? I don't know. But yeah, I'm happy to do it. Just $10, Jesse, and I'm there for you. And the woman behind the Afford Anything podcast is also here, Paula Pant.
Hi, it's amazing to be here.
You never do anything wrong, do you?
I constantly do things wrong all the time, every day.
What are you talking about? Huh? You're going to ruin everybody's image of you.
Well, no one should expect perfection. It's you can do a lot of things wrong as if you get a few things right, you can get a lot of things wrong and still be okay.
That is, it takes what, a lifetime to build a reputation, and just one or two things to let her rip.
That's also true. Yeah. Which is rather unfair of society, isn't it?
It totally 100% is unfair. It's right. Horrible. You know what I found annoying, Jesse, is I've gone around the country meeting our stacker friends, is they're always like, what's it like to work with Paula Pant? Not what's it like to work with Jesse Cramer or OG or Doug, which is great, but what's it like to work with Paula Pant? I'm like, I skip to the microphone every single day. It just is absolutely amazing. You know, it's more amazing. We've got a great show today. I know everybody's going to find that amazing, because we are talking about ways to get better with your money. We often talk about willpower. We're going to start off with willpower, and maybe do we need more willpower? What do we need? We're going to start there. But first, we have a couple of sponsors who help us keep on keeping on, so you don't pay a dime for any of this goodness. What do we say, Paula?
It's totally free and worth every penny.
Isn't that great? It absolutely 100% is. So let's hear from them. And then Paula, OG, Jesse, Doug, and I, we're going to talk about little habits that can make big change. The inspiration for today's discussion comes to us from Kiplinger, and this is written by a financial planner. Let's see. Scroll up, Joe. It's from Bill Schultheis. Do you know Bill Schultheis?
I think he wrote a book, or maybe he came up with a Is he the guy who came up with the coffee portfolio? Coffee house portfolio, Bill Schulteis. It's one of the Bogleheads portfolios.
Oh, cool. Fantastic. Well, Bill has a piece we're going to be chatting about today. He says, I'm a financial planner. These small money habits stick, and now's the perfect time to adopt them. OG, let's start with you today, because I never start going to OG first. And I thought this might be a good one. You know, he's going to talk about habits, but let's talk willpower. Why wouldn't we begin with going, you know what? I have no willpower. Why wouldn't I just get a little more stick-to-itiveness and get on this money stuff?
Did you say something about OG? I was trying to find the email so I could be prepared. I didn't find it.
Can
So
we
ask me your
penalize him
question
7
again.
points, please?
What's that? How many
I
do you
second
need?
that.
We're going to penalize you 7 points.
Oh, okay. What was your question again? Ask again. Unmute yourself first.
We're gonna talk about, this is the way the pros do it, everybody who's live. We're going to talk about habits today.
Okay.
But my first question is, what about willpower? I mean, why wouldn't I just go, you know what, if I had some willpower, I would do this money stuff better. How come we're not starting with willpower? Why start with habits instead?
I mean, what was the Benjamin Hardy book? Willpower Doesn't Work. Is that the name of the book?
I've never read
kind
that
of feel
book.
like that
I
is
believe
the
so,
title
yeah.
of the book.
Apparently,
I
I didn't
didn't
have
read
the
it. I
willpower to
really-
even read it.
I was gonna say I didn't. I just have it. I couldn't get the cover opened. The thing with habit versus willpower. Willpower requires, I think, an affirmative decision every time you have to do something, right? And I'll just use a personal example. A habit that I had many, many, many years ago from the service was I used to chew tobacco. And, it was just something I did. And it got to the point where I knew I had to stop because I had kids at home and they were starting to emulate dad by spitting in their milk jars. And that was a bad vibe. So I decided I wasn't going to quit. I decided I was never going to walk into a gas station again, because that's where I bought it from. Like, you'd stop and get gas in your car, not go into the gas station, like anybody else who buys cigarettes or something like that. And so for the longest time, I never walked in the gas station. And that just kind of, it just dripped away. Like, I didn't put myself in a position to have to make the decision of like, am I going to do this or not today? I just said, I'm just going to create the habit of never walking into the place that sells it or the place that I bought it from. So you have much higher likelihood of being successful if you build a system around your life or whatever it is that you're trying to work on, rather than every day going, today's the day I'm not going to drink, or today's the day I'm not going to smoke, or today's the day I'm going to save money in my brokerage account. If instead it's just, I just, automate it, or, whatever the case may be, you have a much higher likelihood of success.
But Paula, do you think we can build a case for willpower where, okay, OG saying, yeah, habits win, but can we maybe build the muscle, a better willpower? Or do you just throw that in the trash and go, you know what, I'm going to stick with better habits?
I think the hierarchy is first automate, second habits, and third willpower. Because the reality about willpower is that it is a depleting resource. It depletes throughout the day. Often, like, you wake up, you're refreshed, you're rested, and so you often have the highest willpower early in the morning. That's why many people find it very useful to work out first thing in the morning. And then when you get to work, there's that expression, eat the frog first. Do the most unpleasant work task
Ugh, frogs are
first.
gross.
Nobody's ever said that.
Paula
Eat the
made up that
frog
expression
first.
right
That's
now.
not a
No,
thing.
it's a thing. It's a totally
Where were you
totally a thing.
working?
It's a thing.
Were you at like a Louisiana Cajun restaurant working?
At the reptile store, they always said.
And the lizard's like, oh, thank God.
But it's, if you do the most unpleasant thing first, then if you work out first thing in the morning, you're more likely to do it, versus if technically later in the afternoon, you tend to have you have more energy, you can do stronger workouts, but you're more likely to skip it. So So yeah, do the thing first that you want to do. And it's because willpower tends to deplete throughout the day. And then that's often why when you get to the end of the day, like when is the time that you just binge watch TV? When is the time that you absentmindedly scroll social media? It's usually at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day. Why? Because willpower is depleted.
Jen, on YouTube, we're recording this live on YouTube. Come join us. We record Monday afternoons, and if you subscribe, it'll give you an alert that says that we are going live. I got one actually. It's weird. You get one as soon as you hit the button. Like I hit the button and we're going live, and I get the alert that goes, "Hey, you're going live." I'm like, "Really?" Jesse, question for you is
Sure.
that, this topic feels like a January topic, right? Let's have some habits, the beginning of January. And the author here addresses that. He says that, January's fine, but really this time of year in March is a fantastic time to look at your habits. How often do you look at your habits and see about tweaking?
I am I ebb and flow like a Rochester snowbank. You know what I mean? I build up over time and then I melt away and then I build up again and melt away. So I guess if you're asking me personally, I think about it, I don't know, probably on a monthly basis because at some period throughout the month, I feel like there's certain habits that I've always been kind of bad at. And I'll focus on that one and I'll get better. I'll be on a good streak, whether it's for a few days or for a couple weeks or something like that. And then I fall off the wagon in some way. And now I'm thinking about it again. How do I build this system in my life? Maybe so that so that I don't have to lean on willpower, so that it truly is some sort of built-in habit. And by no means do I consider myself to be an expert. I'm more interested to hear about what was it again? Not walking into convenience stores, and was it spitting in your milk jar? Was that what it was? OG, I did not understand. I did not
Well,
understand that at all.
sorry, if you've ever chewed tobacco, there's you kind of have a little spit thing that happens. But my kids were doing it; they're copying me.
I see.
So they got the milk.
See.
Those
Got it.
babies.
Got it.
It's bad luck.
Yeah, I see Dan in the chat. Dan hears I constantly tweak my habits.
You're all about the tweaking.
A lot of tweaking going on over here.
Not surprising.
I don't even know what we're insinuating.
Some of us chew tobacco and
He's
some
a
of us
tweaker.
tweak.
Some of us tweak.
Some
The
of us
younger
tweak.
people, the younger people here, Joe, know what tweaking is.
I was tweaking so hard I ate a frog.
First.
Oh, Jesse, I'm going to stick with you until you, so we don't have to wash your mouth out with soap because mom's going to come running down to the basement. But these financial habits, because we're about to list some cool financial little habits. Where do you rank financial habits versus habits in other areas? Are they the habits you should establish first? Are they habits that come later than other habits? Like, where do you put them in the hierarchy?
I gotta think that health habits should probably come first. Like if we're talking about personal habits and like personal growth and looking within and optimizing yourself as a human, if that's what we're talking about, I would probably put health habits at number one between, dietary habits and exercise habits. Cause I think all else being equal, you'd probably rather be an older, healthier person who maybe is slightly less rich than a fat, dead young person who at least has a high net worth. That'd be my 2 cents, but
I mean,
Doug,
I
you
heard
have a
him say
rebuttal?
all the right. I heard you say all the right words. Like we should prioritize
You are
our health.
screaming
But
into your mic, Doug.
the tone. Well, I'm really passionate about this, Joe. He said all the right words, but the tone of his voice sounded like there's somebody holding a gun to his head right now.
Well, I don't know, Paula.
I have a slight
because
cold today. I might not sound the most enthusiastic. Apologies.
I hear what Jesse's saying, but let me do the counter argument. You could tell me if you agree with where Jesse's going, or I'll do the other side of that, which is it's easier to have great health habits if you have the money to do that. If you have money gives you more flexibility. Money gives you gym. It gives you trainers. It gives you access to the higher, when they did nutritional studies, they show that cheaper food are the processed foods in the middle of the store and the more expensive foods that are better for you are around the outside. So the financial habit gives you the access to have better health.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's absolutely true. There are, with YouTube, there's so many workout videos that you can access on YouTube for free as long as you have internet connectivity. that you can do from your home, from your living room, that even body weight exercises that don't require any equipment. So when it comes to exercise specifically, there's a lot that you can do from home, not requiring, any tremendous amount of space or anything like that. There even
So you're saying exercise wise, you can build the exercise habit before the money habit.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can build the exercise habit for sure. Now, when it comes to access to food, I agree with you. That's a much bigger issue because you're absolutely correct. The cheapest foods are simple carbs. A pack of spaghetti, like plain white spaghetti, or a big bag of rice or white bread is a lot cheaper than vegetables. So yeah, access to food, 1,000%, that is an issue.
He walks through then some of these, I guess we'll call them hacks. And he starts off, OG, with one, and I want to get your take on this one and to see if this is one you use in your practice. He says, if you want to save more, start with a modest automatic transfer, not the big automatic transfer, just a little small one to maybe get I don't know, to start building the muscle.
We do the exact opposite, actually. I would much rather dial it back than try to crank it up. So, within reason, as we're trying to sit and visit with people to calculate, okay, based on your cash flow and based on da 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 da, it looks like you have, $2,000 a month left to save. And then Jesse, probably back me up on this. Clients will go, yeah, too. Probably more like 750. And you're like, no, it's actually probably 2,500. I just rounded down to make your, because I knew you were going to do this. And they go, maybe 825. And you're like, look, let's do the two. And if you call me in a month and it needs to be 1,850, I'm fine with that, or 1,500 or whatever. But the math is math. Your feeling about math doesn't change math being math. So I think you get more done by kind of aiming higher and then kind of dialing it back as you run into, especially for people that have marginal capabilities, right? If your lips are just barely above water, that's a different thing. But if you're trying to set up a plan, I would much rather start with the number that I think it is based on the calculation. And then if life is reality, or life is really something a little different, then come down from that. Going from $500 or $700 a month to 2,000 will take years to do. Going from 2,000 down to 1,500 can take a minute, and you're still hundreds of dollars ahead.
Well, that was my next question actually for you, Jesse, was why not start small? You agree with OG, start big and dial it back?
I mean, so in some of the ways, some of the things that we can do is certainly bigger than I think maybe the article might lead you to believe. I think one thing it says in here is, hey, you don't have to create a budget all at once. Just track one category. And at least to me, I say like that's probably too small. It's like if you're sitting here saying, I need to figure out how much money I'm spending, I need to figure out how much money is going out of my life. While I get it, it's like tracking your groceries is better than tracking nothing. But tracking your entire budget is the goal. And I don't think it's such a crazy goal that you can't start from scratch and 30 days later, 60 days later, say to yourself, oh, I'm now tracking all the money that's moving in and out of my life. I think we're all capable of doing that.
Well, and it's not like you're doing it on paper and pencil anymore.
Well, exactly. Right.
You're doing it on an app, and and even if you don't want to use an app, you can just take the downloads from your credit card or bank and dump it into chat and tell it to organize it.
Right. Exactly. And so, yes, when it comes to the saving muscle, I do agree with OG. I think that left to our own devices, I understand it can be scary to say, wow, someone's telling me I have $1,000 a month of extra room and they want me to put all $1,000 into this investment account or whatever it may be. They want me to save all $1,000. The answer is yeah.
What they say is, you want me to spend this 1,000. It's like, actually, I'm trying to get you to not spend the 1,000. Right. I'm trying to get you to put it in a different bucket. So that if I'm wrong and you really are spending the 1,000, like, you've got a place to draw it from.
I got an email over the weekend from a listener who, long story short, his story was the times when I was younger in my life when I decided to like, oh no, I'll eventually start saving the money. I could save $1,000 a month right now, and I'll eventually get to it. For now, though, that $1,000 a month, I'll just kind of keep it over here in my savings account. He's like, I spent that money. I intended to one day save it, but I spent it. And his point was the money that you don't intentionally go ahead and save in the way that OG is describing, a lot of people will one way or another convince themselves like, oh, I guess I will take that extra trip because the $10,000 is there in the bank. And now you're not saving it. So I do think it's really important to truly save what you're capable of saving.
I don't know if this is a congruent analogy or not, but I'm thinking about on the opposite side of this. Why is the guy saying start small then? And I think about there's a great book on creativity by a woman named Twyla Tharp, who is a choreographer, and she talks about how she works out, and everybody wants to know how she works out. She's like, let me share with you my system. Step one is, she lives in Manhattan. She goes, step one is I call for a cab to come get me at 5:15 in the morning. And then she said, that's my entire system. Because if the cab comes and gets me at 5:15 in the morning, then at 5:30, I will be at the gym. And at 5:30, I will work out. It's almost like, OG, you and I have talked about, if I just put on my running shoes, you know? So
I mean, that's what I'm doing about this race, right? I like literally just scheduled it and then went, well, I better learn how to ride a bicycle for 120 miles up a mountain.
But that's I'm wondering if people have never budgeted before. Okay, don't try to do a full, although it will be better, just do one category. If you've never saved money automatically before, just schedule one modest transfer and see how freaking easy this is. I mean, it feels like the equivalent, isn't it, OG, the equivalent of just putting on your shoes?
Or schedule a 120-mile bike race up a mountain.
Or go big.
I mean,
tell everybody you're going to do it.
Yeah. Even my kids are like, so what, like, what's the out? Like, how do you, like, what could they get you out? But see, to me, I'd rather have that big goal. And now I'm not going to fail it unless something catastrophic happens. But it's like, to me, like if I just said, oh, I'm going to try to do something like without anything attached to it. Like if I said, oh, I have a bike and I should get like better cardio on my bike. It's like there's no measurement to that. There's no success. You didn't hit the goal. Like, how do you know that you did it? Well, this is a finite beginning and ending. Like, I know it's March. I know this thing is in July. Like, I know the fitness level that's required. I have a coach. I did hire a coach to like train through this whole process. So like, why? To me, it seems like I'll have a better outcome than if I just arbitrarily in February said, I should be in better shape by July. Like I should really, buckle down, get after it. Like I know this week I have to ride that friggin' bike like hundreds of miles. Like it's a thing that's now, a success factor. Two sides to the different coin, Joe.
Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking about, what's her name, Twyla, Miss Tharp?
Twyla Tharp.
Twyla Tharp. We might almost be talking about some of the same things, because when I think to myself again, let's think about this exercise example where I'm thinking about, okay, for me to go on a walk around my neighborhood, I have to take our daughter, put her in the stroller, put the dog on the leash, put on my own shoes. But then like once I do that, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to go for at least a 30 or 40-minute walk. The hard part isn't the 40 minutes of walking. The hard part is the prep. So similarly, in this article, the author, who is great, but what he's saying is like, hey, just do one category in your budget. And I'm thinking, I guess maybe we're talking about the same thing, because if you're going to do one, you're probably just going to do the whole thing.
You might as well, as long as you're there.
Exactly. You might as well. And
as you're downloading all the transactions, you might as well have it sort all of them,
right?
Not just the ones on.
And maybe that's his point. Maybe he's sitting there as he's writing this article going, if I convince you to do one category, 90% of you are going to follow through and do the entire thing. So maybe I do agree with him, but I guess what I'm saying is I bet you should do the whole thing, and I bet you will do the whole thing. So
I like that analogy, Paula.
Yeah, there was I'm forgetting the guy's name, but there was this guy. He wrote a blog called Zen Habits, and Leo Babuda. Yes. And there were two things that he said that really stuck with me. One was, he said, if you want to start doing push-ups, he said, just do one push-up. Literally just get on the ground, do one, and that's it. And then you're done.
And you'll never just do one.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you do only do one, if maybe you do only one for the first week, but then week 2 you do 2, and then week 3 you do 3. Like, okay, even if you do start with one, you eventually get stronger and you eventually start doing more. So that was one of the things he said. The other thing he said was, if you want to start flossing, he said just floss one tooth. Floss like literally just one gap, and then put your floss down. You're done.
Let's talk because you and I both have interviewed Laura Vanderkam before, and I was listening to Laura talk about the other side of this that you guys were mentioning, which was say it out loud, say the thing out loud that you're going to do, and tell other people. And she was talking, Paula, about how effective that is. Like they've run studies about how effective it is to say the goal out loud about what you're going to floss. I'm going to floss all my teeth and do a social media post. I don't know. But when you're just getting started, should you be telling everybody what you're doing?
The research on that is mixed. Anecdotally, I've heard some people say that has worked for them, but I believe that there is also research that shows that it tricks a part of your brain into believing that you've already done it, and so therefore it can be counterproductive.
What does that mean? So then you just put your feet up and go, oh, yeah, well,
you
Yeah,
get the dopamine hit of like telling people that you're doing it, so everybody gives you the accolades. Right. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's such a big race. I can't believe, boy, that's going to be awesome when you get that done. Boy, 100 miles, that's a long ways. It's like, and then you get all those feel goods and then you don't actually have to do it because you already got all the feel goods.
Could you imagine if OG just a few days before the race is like, I'm good. Not going to do it.
Yeah. I just said I was going to do this big thing up a mountain for the dopamine hit. That's the only reason I was going to do it.
Give me a little.
All right. So that's number one here. Start with a modest automatic transfer. So what we're saying is set up the automatic transfer system. And then when you get there, we're betting that
start with an aggressively modest.
You may do an aggressive one, but either way, setting up the automatic transfer is the hard part, right? Getting that fusion between your savings account and your brokerage account or wherever that money's going. Number two, he says, if you want to get a better handle on spending, track just one category. Jesse, same thing. And then third, if you want to simplify your financial life, choose one account to consolidate this month, not all of them at once. This could be a much more time-consuming proposition. How often, Paula, have you had to consolidate accounts?
Oh, man. There are times I've had to consolidate accounts. There are times I've had to expand accounts because too many things are piling into just one.
Oh,
And I've had to go both ways, and both times it's onerous.
but generally you like the idea of simplifying that he's mentioning here?
Yeah, I like the idea of mental buckets. Of like is like in the times that I've had to expand, it's been because so many things are piling into just one that there isn't good bucketing anymore. And by virtue of being able to bucket things out in different ways, it creates a cognitive simplicity. So that is to say that like mental simplicity is not necessarily the same thing as only having one as a reduction in number. Do whatever it is that creates that mental simplicity, whether that comes from consolidation or whether that comes from expansion.
This is why, OG, I prefer just one dashboard. At the very least, just have one dashboard because so much stuff gets lost when you got money all over the place.
It's funny that Paula was talking about this because I'm going through something similar right now as we are trying to be simpler with our cash flow. But I realize that it's not simple because I have a lot of weird timed expenses. College costs are not every 6 months. They're not every quarter. They're, August and December. Yeah, it's just that's a weird time, taxes are due at different times for different things. So I'm at the spot too, Paula, where I'm like, okay, I can't just keep having this all be in one account because I can't mentally like go, okay, the taxes are squared away, tuition's good to go. Like it's just, it's all in one bucket. Like how much is, and so now I'm thinking, okay, maybe I want to split this up a little bit just so that I can like visually go, okay, I'm a little ahead on taxes. I'm a little behind on, on college, okay, this is where my focus needs to be for the next quarter. But there's a downside to that. Then you end up with like 5 savings accounts, or whatever. So I know a lot of tech companies, you can do the bucket thing, in your account, but yeah, dashboards work really well if you've got a system to automate it. And sometimes the process of doing the dashboard, even if you have to manually do it, is actually very helpful because it requires you to kind of dive back in and literally sit down and fill out the spreadsheet again. There's a benefit to using tech and going, hey, boom, download categories. Okay, cool. Right. There's another benefit to like literally logging into American Express and going, show me my spend for the last year. Holy crow.
That creates some thoughtfulness.
Yeah. You're doing something around it. It's like memorization, right? If you guys remember having to memorize stuff when you were kids, or, however you had to do it, it's like if you just thought about it, but if you said it or wrote it at the same time, like the more senses you got involved in that task, the stickier that, that memory was going to be. I bet that most of your memories of being a kid involved a lot of senses at one time, right? I was doing the basketball game. The crowd was cheering. I remember I was really sweaty and I made the foul shot that won the championship and I got mobbed by everybody. It's like all of those senses were helping, solidify that memory. The same thing is true, I think, when it comes to like unraveling your money. The more you can get involved with different things, or the more that you can involve your different abilities, the stickier it is.
Is this a conversation in the future, Jesse, you're going to have with your daughter? When I was a kid, I had to memorize my own stuff. When I went to school, I didn't have Claude memorize everything for me.
Yeah. And there's actually a big plan about this. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the thermostat up hot in the house. I'm going to take some cymbals and crash them together. We're going to be cooking soup so that there's a big smell. Because the thing is, we really want to impact all her senses all at once so that conversation really sticks,
Perfect.
There's going to be a lot of senses going on. I'm sorry. I had to. Sweaty. Anyway.
Earl
yes,
Woods School
to
of
answer
Parenting?
your question, to answer the serious and well put question. I see.
Sometimes I think we can be friends, Jesse, and then I think sometimes.
Speaking of soup, I think OG is simmering right now.
I'm thinking, like every so often, I'm like, I got a 50% vote on. Like, I need to exercise my vote every so often, and I'm just saying. Just remember, just be careful. It's still
OG,
50-50.
there's a little bit of Sun Tzu going on here. We're right before the break. We're right before the trivia, and you're up 7-0. I got to get in your head.
He's
gonna make beating you senseless that much more fun.
Snap.
Define the battlefield, Jesse. Sun Tzu. Well, speaking of that, in the second half of today's show, we're going to talk about spending, because he talks about simplifying your spending. I want to spend just a few more minutes about simplifying your life, because he's got a couple more points about simplification. So we'll talk about simplifying accounts, simplifying your spending, and where to find joy, and kind of wrap this discussion up. But at the halfway point, we have this year-long trivia competition that this year has a brand new feature that, man, we're probably going to see today, actually. And I know that because there's only 2 weeks left in this quarter, and 2 of our contributors have not used their margin call. So what this means is our 3 contributors are all trying to win this dollar store trophy by the end of the year. And the score, Doug, well, it's not great.
No, we're in James Bond territory. Yeah, we're in James Bond territory now, Joe. It's 007 here in the basement.
It's 007. That's good.
We've got big fat 0 for Jesse, an even fatter 0 for Paula, and a little skinny stick figure 7 for OG.
So 7 points. Now, what the margin call does, if you hear one of our contributors, either Jesse or Paula, because OG's used his.
I thought you had to have a point to margin call somebody, because you can go down.
You
just can't go negative. So it's a freebie for them. Why wouldn't they?
I distinctly remember this as being one of the rules earlier. We should check tape.
No, they can margin call.
Can I margin call OG on this ruling? Because I feel like he's losing this ruling. Can I?
Jesse
keep it
gets a
up, OG.
point
We're
for the
gonna give
ruling
him-
before the ruling.
We might give him we might give him a margin call during the question and another one during the answer to keep pushing back.
Ooh, can a person get double margin called in one episode?
I don't think so.
I don't think
don't-
that even. I
don't-
wouldn't do that. I would save it.
The judges are ruling no. You got to hit him twice. But
All right.
so somebody's probably going to margin call OG today, and the contributor says that if OG wins the point, he still gets the point. But if they had more than 0, the other contributor would lose a point because they only have 0. They can't lose a point, so they can't get further behind. But OG will get the point. If they win, they steal the point from a point from OG, and they get their point.
I'm gonna
Watch.
Go back
This
and
is
check
going
the
to be the week
transcript
that
on
I.
this.
This is going to be the week that I win a point and that I immediately lose it next week. That's I predict.
Well,
Don't predict the future, please, God.
Let's get it over with, Doug.
Doug, here we go. Let's get it over with. What's our trivia question this
I
week?
think we need to have a whole ancillary betting market on how many words I'm going to make it into this question before somebody yells margin call.
We'll see.
Get out on Kalshi, folks, right now. I'm going with 3.5. Hey there, stackers. I'm
Margin
Joe's
call.
mom's. There it is.
On who, Jesse? Who are you
On
margin
OG.
calling?
On
Oh,
OG.
continue, Doug.
Okay. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today's the anniversary of the day the Beatles were headed for the dumpster. That's right. It was the day that John Lennon married Yoko Ono, whose name had been originally Yoko Maybe, until she proved that, oh no, she could indeed help finish off what was arguably the greatest band of all times. Not that I have an opinion about this topic or anything. Let's focus on the aftermath of the Beatles then, to keep it positive. Lennon's top Benjamin stacking song of all, sadly, rose up the charts posthumously after he was murdered. Starting Over rose all the way up to number 1 for, well, here's today's question. For how many weeks? I'll be back right after I go figure out how to change my social media profiles. That's right. I'm saying it here. If you're a Yoko Ono fan, you're dead to me. Dead.
All right, OG, you are in the hot seat, my friend. Starting Over, John Lennon's top hit. How many made tons of money? Sadly, it was when he passed away. How many
Can
weeks?
I get a few bars of what this song sounds like?
Doug?
Nope. Because I never liked this song, actually.
Oh,
So
I love this song.
Yeah, you go,
Joe,
man.
anything?
No, I think I'll let you just. Yeah,
I don't know the song. That's not fair.
That's irrelevant.
It'll be just like Starting Over. Starting Over. There you go.
All right. So he died. When was that disclosed? Is it like today's day or something like that? Was it?
Well, we said we covered it. 1980.
I don't listen to anything you say. I'm just waiting for the question. Biding time. Okay. So I want to say this is the dude that was killed in the 80s. Does that sound about right? No
John
comment
Lennon.
from anybody? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So long before Jesse and Paula, so they're not gonna get this anyway. And then it was kind of like a Mercy album listing on Casey Kasem. It's like, and then we're gonna have this guy at number 1 for a while because he's dead. So how long would they have like had the song on there as like a courtesy? The first thing that popped in my head was 26 weeks, which is half a year. I'm gonna say 34 weeks, just a little bit over a half a year. 34 weeks.
Stayed number 1 at 34 weeks. Jesse, you're second. Do you know the song Starting Over by John Lennon?
I don't. I feel like I'm a decent Beatles and Beatles members fan. And I also just, I know enough, like there aren't a ton of songs. Well, let me put it this way. I feel like the songs that were number 1 for like half a year are like super well known and super famous. So I'm thinking lower than OG. I'm going to go with 2 months. So let's say, I'm going to go with 8 weeks.
8 weeks at number 1. So we've got 36 and 8. Paula?
He said 34, Joe.
Sorry.
34. Man, I feel like strategically I should just take the middle because I have no idea what the answer is.
Do you know this song?
No. You lost me at do I know pretty much any song ever by anyone.
She's like, I don't know who John Lennon is. I'm not sure why we're talking about bugs.
No, I do know I like the Beatles a lot, actually. I know some of their more pop, like, I don't mean to imply that this is not a popular song, but I do know many of their albums and many of their songs, but I don't know this one. All right. So I'm trying to mathematically do the average in my head. So 34 plus 8 would be 42, divided by 2 is 22. So I guess that's my answer, 22.
22. She goes right in the middle. We've got 34, 22, and 8. Who's going to win it? We'll be right back. All right, Paula, you finished this off with 22. You took the field goal up the middle. What could go wrong?
I know.
Could
right?
anything go wrong?
I mean, given that none of us know it, it probably indicates that it wasn't on the charts for that long. So there might have been an argument for taking the under that I missed. So,
well, OG, you're up there at 34 weeks. How you feeling?
Don't care. I'm up 7-0. So if I'm up 6-0 or 6-1, I'm still half a quarter ahead of everyone.
Well, we have a 2-point swing here, right,
It
Joe?
could be 6-2.
It's going to be 6-2.
If it's Jesse,
you guys keep on making up new rules every single week. But whatever, let's read it.
Jesse wins. He gets the point.
How are we making up a new rule?
Okay, first of all, it was never people with zeros couldn't do it. But we changed that. Then you said you couldn't do it because it could go negative. And then you said you can't do that. But go ahead. Let's just give it to one of the other two because I get it. It's not good radio when I kick everyone's ass. So let's go.
Jesse, how you feeling?
Doug probably just texted one of these two the real answer. We'll find out.
I don't know if we talked about this, but it's a special this week only. Margin calls are worth 3 points this week.
Don't care.
We had a special in aisle 4.
Whatever you got to do to make it interesting, fellas.
Well, let's see, Doug. Doug, give us the answer to today's trivia question.
Well, to answer your question, I'm feeling a little guilty now, Joe.
Why is that?
I think OG answered my question for me. You asked me how I felt, but OG answered. I'm feeling a little guilty if I win because OG feels his lead slipping away, and
I'm up by half the quarter. It's not slipping away, Jesse. It was
he's gonna get margin called. He's gonna get margin called next
around.
week. He's gonna drop down to 4. I mean, you see how this thing goes.
Stolen last year because I.
Everybody in the comments are saying we should change the rules more often. That we need to change rules as often as we can. Doug, I think this is like a 12-point week. But
let's just let Paula win, and then we don't have to do this part anymore.
No, I don't want your sympathy vote.
Okay, then let's have Jesse win. Somebody's got to win.
Who's going to win, Doug?
Hey there, stackers. I'm yogurt lover, but Yoko despiser, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Today's the date that John Lennon married Yoko Ono way back in 1969, which eventually led the Beatles to becoming nowhere men living in nowhere land. But
nice.
See how
nice work
I did there? But because I'd have to chat with my therapist about anger management on that topic, let's focus on his biggest record of all time, a song called Starting Over, which he recorded just before he was shot and killed in 1980. Today's question was, how long did this Benjamin Stacking hit last on top of the Billboard Hot 100 chart? The answer? Well, in terms of weeks, it was 29 weeks fewer than what OG said, 17 fewer weeks than Paula's guess, just 3 weeks less than Jesse, because the correct answer is 5 weeks.
So it was a crappy song. I'm a crappy band. when I was
This
2.
you guys are all missing out on the fact that this was just John Lennon as a solo artist, not the Beatles. He was certainly famous for being in the Beatles. So I think that skewed all your answers to the high side.
Yeah.
Nice job, Jesse. Good
Also,
work.
I wasn't 15 when this came out, like you guys. So whatever. It's cool.
Jesse scored
Trying
2
to get
points.
dates for prom.
Yeah. I definitely got it right because I was alive in 1980.
It's Jesse's favorite song. He's got the poster and everything. Hot take, by the way, Doug, was that Yoko Ono didn't break up the Beatles. John Lennon broke up the Beatles because he decided that his relationship with Yoko was more important than the band.
But
By the way, when I margin called Jesse several weeks ago, I did not get 2 points for winning. I got 1, but that's okay.
we will review.
No,
Committee will meet.
What are you saying, Jesse?
I think it is. I think I remember that too. It's a 2-point swing. It's a -1 and a +1, I believe.
Yeah, it's a -1 and a +1. So you lost a point. Yes,
Correct.
exactly. So OG
Jesse
loses a
got one.
point to go to 6. So this is the same stuff. Jesse was at 1 point for winning earlier in the year, went back to 0,
Yeah.
and then gained a point. So the score is now 6-1, right?
610.
0.
Paul's like, wait, I'm still here.
We were
Wait in the
trying
back. Yeah, nice work. All right, let's move on to the second half of today's discussion. I want to finish off this talk that we're having about simplification, because some of these things, Paula, combining old IRAs into a single account when appropriate, streamline taxable accounts across banks or investment firms, reduce the number of savings account unless each one has a clear purpose, like you were talking about earlier. I think he makes a great point there that if it doesn't have a purpose, it just creates more friction having this money all over the place. It's not diversification.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends. It's sure, if you've got a whole bunch of random accounts and they're all being used for random things, absolutely, yeah, then that it just creates unnecessary complexity. But if you can mentally bucket, this account is earmarked for this purpose, this account is earmarked for this other purpose, sure, that actually creates some clarity. And sometimes it's nice to be able to log into a particular account and just see a very streamlined view of here's how this mental bucket is going. And so, you see all of the, especially if it's, a mental bucket that has both inputs and outputs that happen every now and again. It's nice to have a very streamlined view of just that bucket. So I think it really depends on the way in which you treat your accounts.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had a client, Jesse, back when I was a financial planner, who I had taken over. This is back in the day when being somebody's financial advisor. This was just at the beginning of charging fees. There weren't a lot of firms that charge fees. So we manage people's accounts, and I was assigned this family. They had no idea they even had an account with our firm. And so they were making all these decisions about their money. And then it turned out that they had in this one fund about $70,000 this is way better than finding $10 in your pocket. The problem is, though, once they knew that money was there, guess what they started doing? Immediately blew it all. Like, it was amazing how fast they went through $70,000, like very quickly. And I remember meeting after meeting, I go, you're depleting this really quick. Before you were living one way, now it's hidden. Like, I think that making confident decisions can kind of go both ways, and hiding money from yourself isn't always a bad thing.
Yeah, I've heard the term found money before. Like, people treat found money differently because to them it's like, right, it's money we never counted on. It's money we never assumed we'd had. It's basically like I stumbled upon $70,000 under a rock. It's like, great. Now I get to blow this money on whatever I want. And then after I blow this money, I'm still going to have the same lifestyle. And while don't get me wrong, I understand where that line of thinking comes from. The word that it's not a word I invented. The word is fungible, right? Money is fungible. Dollars are fungible. And technically speaking, you should respect that hard-earned dollar that your blood, sweat, and tears went into just as much as you should respect that dollar that you literally picked up at the grocery store parking lot. It's the same dollar. It can get you to the same place in your life. Now, I don't know how to convince someone of that truth. I'm not sure I exactly know, other than maybe if I just explain it that way, maybe some people it'll sink in and they're like, oh, right, it is all the same. And I ought to treat it all the same. It can get to me to where I want to go. Not really sure where I was going with that point, but I felt like it started to answer your question, Joe.
It felt really good.
Use the word fungible, and that's fun.
It is very fun. You're a fun guy, Doug.
He's a mushroom.
He's a mushroom farmer.
He's Paula. What's interesting is he kind of flips this on its side, the author of this piece, and says you should do the same thing with your spending. You should, whenever possible, look to consolidate spending and make spending easier, because it's easier to make confident spending decisions. You agree with that?
Yeah, I actually really like doing that because, when it comes to stuff like stuff that you buy regularly, like clothing or groceries or shoes, I think there is something to be said for having brand loyalty just for the sake of mental simplicity. Like if every time I bought a sweater, I had to shop around, that would just be it'd be a headache. It would be another task versus I know where I go, I know what I'm buying. 2 seconds, it's done. And the same thing with shoes. Like I'm more or less just, unless they're heavy winter boots, I more or less just stick with one brand. Cool, we're good. I don't have to think about it. So yeah, I think consolidating the spending and having some brand loyalty and a couple of staples that are going to serve you, great. Now I don't have to think about my shopping.
Cut the credit card, OG, and use just one or two.
I don't know. I mean, from a simplicity standpoint, sure. I'm not a great example here because I'm kind of a points whore. So I've got, I kind of play that game just a little bit of like where,
use this one at the gas pump and that one to book plane
not
tickets.
Quite that bad. More like I got to spend X dollars to get this bonus over here. And then it'll probably be sock drawered for a while. I mean, we have definitely kind of a normal go-to. Don't get as granular as Chase's 5% bonus cap is $1,500 this month on this purchase category. And so, yeah, we're not getting that far into it, but I think generally speaking, if you've got, a Visa card and an Amex card, or Visa and a MasterCard, some two different brands from two different banks, I think you're generally well covered just about anywhere, and then after that, you can pay attention to what you really do your spending on. If you do a bunch of international travel, you probably make sense to have a card that doesn't charge you travel fees, or whatever, conversion
transaction fees,
or whatever. So, you can be smart around that, but I think for most people, one or two would be more than adequate.
Jesse, how do you streamline?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I share one credit card. Pretty straightforward on that front. Like we just, that spending is very straightforward. It's either that, or if it has to be cash, it'll be cash coming out of the wallet. For the most part, I'm trying to have all my my accounts at one custodian and consolidating those as much as I can. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I don't know. I think that Einstein quote of everything should be simple as possible. What is it? As simple as possible, but no simpler. Like I really think that gets you a long way in personal finance. I think sometimes there are ways that you can oversimplify things for sure, but more often than not, simple beats complex.
Paula, he flips this again then and says that it's really tough to look at what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy when you're lost in the weeds of spending in different places. Like once you've got it all in one place or just a couple easy places, then you can start sitting back and then you can have those discussions that we talk about all the time here and on Afford Anything and on personal finance for long-term investors, which is, does this spending actually light me up? He says it's impossible to do that if you're in the weeds with all these different things. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. So I was talking earlier today with Paulette Perhatch. We were discussing the concept of like, what's my joy budget? And it's, when you think of it as a joy budget, it's all right. You've got all of these little things. Sometimes it's uh, a meal that you order out, or sometimes, or getting your nails done or going to Topgolf or whatever it is, right? But all of it, whether it's clothing or food or entertainment, it all kind of goes into what you would call the joy budget. And when you think about top line, like what are all of those things that bring me joy that I spend on, and what is the max that I'm willing or able to spend in a given week or month on that? Then you're kind of thinking outside of the standard budgeting boundaries, because you're not thinking about how much am I spending on entertainment versus restaurants versus um, you know clothing. You're thinking more broadly, what am I spending on joy, and how much can that be?
It's funny, OG. You and I went through a exercise, I guess we call it, with Strategic Coach, where in Strategic Coach, through a series of steps, they're like, what are the things that are important to you? And these things that people normally put off till later, right? When I'm old, I'm going to do this. 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 And then they ask you the question, why aren't you working on any of that now? Because you go through what you're doing today versus what you said is important to you. And often those two things are nowhere the same. He says the same thing with your spending. List the top 5 things that brought you joy last year. Look at your spending summary, compare the two. If the alignment is strong, you're on the right path. I guess I'd never thought about doing that with my spending as well.
I mean, it's kind of putting your money where your mouth is, right? It's like you say, it's like Maury Povich. He's got the envelope, and he's like,
Monarch Money said,
you say travel is important to you. Your budget says wine is important to you. Right. So and there's the thing is that when it comes to spending or any financial goal or finance anything whatsoever, it's very deeply personal. And I don't really like the common refrain of, you must do this, or you have to do these things, or, this is to be successful. This is what, successful people do. It's like, you only have to go around the block once or twice and you see there's like thousands of ways to be successful. There's thousands of ways to spend money. There's, and the way that somebody likes to do things is different than other people. And I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, if you don't owe anybody an explanation for what you're choosing to do with your money or your resources, as long as it's in alignment with what you say is important. And so if somebody holds up the mirror and you're saying, hey, this is really important to me, and then you're not living that in alignment, I think ultimately that's where you run into like just that weird grindy feeling of like, really, you say, it's like, oh no, being physically fit, super important to me. It's like, I just saw you eat 3 donuts. Like what are you talking about? It doesn't, the incongruency is very obvious to people. So I don't know that it's anybody's business, honestly, like what you feel like spending your money on. Some people want to travel. Some people want to buy wine, don't at me, bro. But if you're like not doing if you're saying one thing and doing another, that I think that's like a personal thing where you need to just go, hey, is this really what I want to be doing? Am I just saying I want to travel because I heard on some blog somewhere that retirement means traveling?
Just sounds like what everybody's doing.
That's what everybody does. I'm supposed to travel. I'm supposed to want to travel. Some people don't like to travel, so don't travel. You don't have to say that you want to do that.
I remember I had this couple that I worked with, and she wanted to travel, and his job was travel. He was all over the place. He's like,
I can't wait to not travel.
Right. And we had the best discussions, OG, mitigating how were they going to get both of their goals, which were polar opposites of each other.
There's a scene, the final scene of No Country for Old Men. If you guys have seen that movie, I know Paula hasn't. It's fine. It's one of the best movies of all time. But the final scene, he's retired, right? And he's sitting there drinking his coffee, and he's just like, "What are you doing today?" maybe I'll help out around the house. And she's like, what are you talking? Like, I have stuff to do. And he's like, well, okay, I was going to go into town, but maybe I'll stay with you. And she's like, no, you do your thing. And you can tell he hasn't thought through what his thing is. Like, he's just done doing that thing. Didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about what the next thing's going to be. And he's just kind of stuck. That's the end of and the movie ends, fade to black. And, he's just sitting there with a cup of coffee. So just be true to yourself. Nobody says you have to do stuff.
I want to ask you guys before we say goodbye, just one small habit you think our stackers could change. What's one small thing, Paula, that people could do today, right now, that could give them big results over time?
So I would automate something, because again, with the hierarchy of automate, then habit, then willpower, if you could just automate a thing, whether that's, let's say you're increasing the amount of money that goes into an IRA or a Roth IRA, or you're increasing the amount that goes into a 401k, just set up that automation just once, even if it's an extra $50 a month, right? Like, set up that automation just once, and then it's going to happen in the background, outside of your conscious awareness, outside of your active decision making. It's a small thing. You can do it right now, and it will reap rewards over and over and over and over.
Automate one thing. Jesse?
Two came to my mind, but they're really quick, so I'll go through them. The first one is at the end of every month, flag 3 expenses that just, upon retrospect, you're like, oh, I'm not sure I really liked that I spent money on that thing. And I think getting in the habit of doing that will make you maybe a more conscientious spender going forward.
Focus on that joy we talked about.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other side of the habit, though, is right. So there's like limiting spending. The other side of the coin is kind of expanding your income. So it's to start to think about, like, if you needed to increase your income by 50%, if you had to make changes over the coming years that would grow your career, and maybe this is more targeted toward younger people who are in that stage, but it's like, start thinking through what you would do, what you would need to do, what you would have to do to expand your career, to make that side of your ledger kind of healthier. So that'd be the two things.
Oh, gee, you got the final one.
I'm just going to cheat and use one that I talked about earlier. And since we've recorded 3 times today, I don't know when the hell I said this, but but if you don't use a tool to track your spending, you should. I know I use Monarch. Joe, I think you've used Monarch before in the past.
I do use Monarch,
but what I did recently, which I thought was really fantastic, was I went on the desktop. I sorted by show me all the transactions for the last 12 months in 2025. It was 3,900 and some odd lines of CSV file. I dumped it into Claude and said, now take all this and organize it per account and by category within each tab. And so, like, literally in each account, so I can say, well, on my Amex card, here's what I spent in each category, and here are the individual transactions. And in my, bank account, same thing. And on the, Costco Visa card, here's what Costco, shocking, but it gave me an individual's printout of each one of those on a tab. And then I said, okay, now you're a budget expert. Tell me what I should know. Ask me questions like, what jumps out at you? And like I've said before, in a previous show or earlier today, I said it flagged an expensive wine for me. And it said, it literally goes, did you have a wine subscription you forgot to cancel? Question. Like, here's a line item for what you spent last year. And it's just a good double check. So
called it out. Then you had to ask if that brought you joy or not.
And it sure does. So, and I don't owe anybody an explanation. Damn it.
There it goes. So why did you bring it up 2 shows this week?
You don't know. I have a limited repertoire of information, Joe.
I think there might be some guilt going on. I don't know.
Oh, now you're trying to psychoanalyze my loss to Jesse today. Great. That's all I need.
I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, that's going to do it for today. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us today in the chat. By the way, next week, people are like, we need a redo of the rules explanation for the trivia. That's our big. It's a contested episode, Doug. There's nothing going on at Stacky Benjamins if we're not contesting the trivia. This will be blowing up all over the place now that Jesse won. Jesse?
I think the way we settle this is you give me 2 points, but we do put an ask. Oh, give me a half point. Give me a half point. Continue the tradition.
I think we said we're not doing that anymore after last
happening
year.
again.
Yeah. That one I do remember. Might not remember the rest, but we will have some clarification from the judges in next week's show. Oh,
we're
gee.
back to the coalition. We're back to the coalition,
we go.
Jesse.
There we go.
Oh, boy, Paula. It's this thing's going downhill fast. So let's find out what all of you are doing. It is the last weekend in March, which means, oh, gee, if I've known you a little bit, that means you're glued to your TV in March Madness all weekend.
Oh, I wish. This is after school activity weekend. Just kind of kicked off a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
So I'm in Las Vegas right now, Lost Wages right now. At a meeting. So I'm not even like doing any fun stuff in Vegas. I'm
One star.
I know. Not even at a cool hotel. It's like,
Yuck. Well,
south of the strip.
so sorry to hear that. And you'll
I'll
find a way.
manage. It'll be
You'll find
okay.
a way.
I
You'll figure it out.
probably will find some basketball on TV.
And then, and by the way, Shane says he doesn't want just a rules clarification. He wants the entire episode on the trivia rules. No, we're not going there, Shane. Paula, the Afford Anything podcast, wrapping up March, I'm sure with a bang. What's going on?
You know, I just realized my entire trivia guess was wrong because I was going for the average, right? 34 plus 8 is 42. Half of that is 21. It's not 22.
And that's why you're wrong. That is 100% why you lost right there.
I got the whole premise of the, oh my goodness. I got the math wrong on my entire, not that it would have made a difference.
Should
but
have margin
man.
called your math.
Right? I got the math wrong on my trivia answer. But a person who doesn't have the math wrong is Bill Gurley, and he is a venture capitalist who is a guest on one of my episodes. So tune into the Afford Anything podcast to hear Bill Gurley, the VC, talk about how to choose a career that's a great fit for you. You know, how
Awesome.
to spend your time doing the thing that you truly love.
That's fabulous. And that's at the Afford Anything podcast, where only the finest podcasts are found.
Yes.
Speaking of finest podcast, another one of the finest podcasts in the land, Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors. Jesse, how are you doing fireworks here at the end of March?
Well, the exciting personal update is that, knock on wood, hopefully we have a happy, healthy baby by the end of March. Baby number 2. Due date is the 19th. So, but we still have some episodes coming out. We have.
You're like, hopefully I'm not sleeping.
Right. Everything's been pre-recorded so that I don't have to do any actual work when we're trying to raise an infant. But I've got a couple episodes. One's an Ask Me Anything, which are usually well received, and then a deep dive on. I had a bunch of questions about Monte Carlo analysis. People asking me how it works and what's going on under the hood. So I did a deeper than it ought to be dive on Monte Carlo analysis.
Awesome. And that is it. Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors, where only the finest podcasts are found. I love that Monte Carlo analysis. There's so much that people get wrong when they first dive into Monte Carlo. So I can't wait to hear that one. All right. That's going to do it for today. Doug, you got it from here, man. What should we have learned on today's show?
Well, Joe, first, are you struggling to decide which habits are most important to establish first? Learn from Paula. Eat the cold-blooded amphibious vertebrates first. Don't worry if you need to saute them in a pound of butter, then wrap them in bacon, deep fry them in peanut oil, and then dip them in ranch dressing. It's still a good habit to do the part you don't like first. Second,
You can throw them in a salad.
That too, yeah. I mean, whatever you got to do.
Choices.
Second, take some advice from Jesse. Keep all your money with your custodian. Apparently, I mean, no one will ever think that the parolee pushing a bucket of bleach would be holding on to that much money. It's safe as houses with that guy. But the big lesson, when you've got a great thing going with a couple of buddies, you're laughing all the time, you're putting out hit after hit, never date anyone. They'll just ruin the amazing chemistry you've worked years to cultivate. It's like that old saying, bros before who let that cat in here again? How many times do I have to tell you I'm allergic? That's it. I'm out. I quit. It's over.
Oh boy.
Thanks to Jesse Cramer for joining us today. You'll want to hear more from Jesse. Be sure to check out his podcast called Personal Finance for Long-Term Investors who have a desire to achieve a comfortable lifestyle in their later years or maybe sooner. Can't remember all that? Don't worry. We'll include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And thanks also to OG for joining us today. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar. That's it. I'm like, what are we waiting for? I'm done. Copyright 2026 and is created by Saul-Sehy. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.
What was that? It's called the medium sketch.
The medium sketch?
Yeah, it wasn't rare and it certainly wasn't well done.